Mic check Vienna.
So it's just kind of just not just for fun, but it should be fun because there's so much work to do for us or for everybody maybe.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not even really sure what to ask you. I just thought we will figure it out when we talk.
Of course.
And well, maybe we start. You put here some orange net. What's that about?
The orange netting is symbolic of the same kind of material that the New York Police Department and other police departments use to kettle protesters. What they'll do is they'll tell...
Why would they do that?
To get them off the street. You know, they don't want people blocking traffic. They don't want people interrupting the machine. And that's the whole point of protest, is to interrupt the machine, to tell people, look, we have these problems. We have a constitutional right under the Constitution of the United States to redress our grievances with the system. And that's why we're in the street protesting. But of course, you know, the system doesn't like that, so the system has ways of getting people off of the street. And what they do is they tell protesters, okay, go down here. And being a peaceful movement, you know, we do our best to comply, to avoid confrontation, and they'll pen people into a certain spot, unfurl this kind of material right here, and then just gather everybody up, bring over a bus, shove everybody in the bus, take them off to jail. They'll spend the night in jail and then get released without charges.
Okay, I heard there's a new act was passing in the States where basically the army can just take everybody who they suspect as a terrorist and put them in jail or at least hold them somehow. Do you know anything about that?
I don't think I can speak. The situation changes so frequently, I can't speak specifically to that, but it's just another example of a lot of different things. You know, there's the kill list, which we know about.
What's the kill list?
The kill list is...
Are we on?
I hope I'm not on the kill list. I don't think I am.
Okay.
But it's just fascinating how the executive branch just keeps taking more and more power in the name of fighting terrorism. And this kill list is a list of people that the president puts together with the National Security Board. And they say, well, these are American citizens who present such a threat that they should just be executed, that we shouldn't try to arrest them, bring them to trial. Because our trial process is still, still there's enough freedom there and there's enough room where the government may not be able to present a convincing case for these people to put them in jail for whatever acts they may or may not commit. So it's just easier to execute them. And that's horrible. That flies in the face in what I believe America is all about.
Yeah. I mean, what are the threats? What are the threats? As I understand it, there are people who want to change this world to a better place. So why are there people who are afraid of this change?
The system is falling apart. That's basically what it is. You see that with the collapse of the banking system, with the collapse of the educational system, to provide people the proper education to go out in the workforce and be productive to create value. You know, our economic system is no longer about applying capital towards value-creating enterprises. It's about capital and the manipulation of capital to create more capital. It's no longer about creating value, it's about the manipulation of capital. And that's a fundamentally broken system, and that's starting to fail. It's inevitable. It's like any Ponzi scheme, excuse me, I'm sorry. Any Ponzi scheme, any unsustainable system will at some point collapse, and we're seeing the collapse now.
But it seems like it's not failing, but it's working as it should actually, because if you look at the interest and the interest on interest, it's exponential. So it's just a question of time when the system, the economic system, will not be in the position to pay back this interest. So it's just working like it should. I think this happened before.
No, it happens. It's happened many times before, but it's never happened to the extent that it's happening now. Because now with technology and with the globalization, with every economy being interconnected with every other economy, the failure of one has an impact on all of the others. And it's always been that way to a certain extent, since we could sail across the ocean, but now everything is so interconnected And we know, it's obvious, everybody knows that the system is headed towards collapse. It's a train on the tracks, we know exactly where it's going, and it's accelerating there. But it's not there yet, and people are still thinking, well, if we just slow down a little bit, or if we just transfer the tracks over here, they're just postponing the inevitable. They're not addressing the root fundamental causes, and that's what Occupy is about. It's saying, stop. Let's actually talk about this. Let's get educated. The people who are supposed to be in charge, finance ministers, politicians, they're not educated in how all of this stuff works. They don't know. Finance ministers of European nations cannot tell the difference between hedge funds and derivatives trading.
Well, you're an accountant, right? So do you know how money is created, how it works?
I know the economic theory behind it, but as I explain it to people, money has no intrinsic value. Yeah. The only value that money has is as an arbiter of exchange. It's one of those things where your work cannot pay you in rent, in food, in clothing, in party expenses. They can't pay you in that. They have to pay you in something, so they pay you in money, and that money is used to buy all these other things, and that's all it is. Money, it's just coupons. You know, for a while, maybe it was backed in metals or this, that, and the other, that it had some kind of intrinsic value, but now it doesn't. Money is created when money needs to be created. When the central banks say, we need this, or we need to follow these principles, and they just create. As
far as I know, we have an economic professor here in Austria. His name is Franz Hörmann. He was actually some days ago at the TED Talk, and he was trying to explain this issue. And I mean, there is I think 97% of the money that is in this economic system are just numbers in a computer. It never existed in paper or coins or something. It's just numbers. So
that's exactly it. Even the money that's paper, just because you can touch it doesn't mean it's any different than money that's stored in a computer or money that's traded back and forth or wired, this, that, and the other. All money is saying at some point something of value was exchanged for this. And then this is meant to purchase or acquire something of equivalent value. But now, so much of that money is not creating any value. The money itself is what's being traded back and forth for one thing or another, for derivatives or for things that are further away from actual value, further away from actually creating something for people.
Another thing, it looks like we produce food for about 12 billion people, and yet we let 1 billion people suffer famine. How do we explain that? I mean, we call ourselves, we are civilized, we are modern citizens and people, and then we know every 5 seconds a child is starving to death, although we have more than enough food. How is it possible?
That's the question. You know, I mean, what I choose to view these questions as, picture another intelligent species from far, far away. If they're coming and looking at planet Earth and trying to understand things, how are they supposed to explain questions like that? You know, how are they supposed to explain that we have the technology, we have the capacity, we have the brain power and the resources and everything to move our civilization off of this rock? You know, we made it to our nearest orbiting rock 40 years ago. 40 years, I mean, almost a lifetime ago. Yeah. And we haven't been back since. How do you explain that? And then there are the other questions of how do we let people starve? Why are there people starving when we're converting food into fuel for cars? Just looking at the corn that is spent to fuel cars, that alone could probably, just that corn, could probably end famine. And that's not even counting the resources that go into the production of meat, counting the resources that go into the production of all of these various different other things. And that's why we don't take time to step back and look at those issues. And that's what I think the Occupy movement is about. It's to look at all of these things that are fundamentally wrong with the machine that we've been in.
What made you turn into this kind of human? I mean, because you were raised like anybody else, you went to school and then you went working, I guess, just to make money or whatever. And when did you become a human being, I would say? How did it happen?
I mean, I've never, I was raised in a solidly, I don't like the 99%, 1% dynamic, but
Me neither.
but for the sake of convenience, I was raised in what's basically a 1% household.
We are all 1% compared to some other countries, or so.
Exactly. But I mean, I was raised in an affluent household. We had Sunday brunch. We always had Christmas. We never suffered from want. I had a car when I was a new car when I was 16 years old that I drove to school where everybody else had cars, where we could have just as easily walked. It's a 15-minute walk away. You know, the place that I went to high school. I went to university. I did all of that. But I've always struggled with these questions, with that question, just as a child, seeing starving kids. Why are there starving kids in Africa? You know, why? It's always been nagging in the back of my mind, but then again, there are expectations placed upon you from a very early age that never let up. That, okay, you go to school, you get good grades, you get into university, you study at university to go and pursue a trade, and perhaps you just go to university to think, to ponder these questions, to learn about civilization, to learn about modern culture. And then from there, being an educated person, you go out and you enter the workforce and you start creating value, and then you get married, and then you have children, and then this.
You do?
Huh? No, I don't. But that's the expectation. Yeah. That's what, and that's the thing, is that for me, some of those things started to break down a little bit. My undergraduate degree is in sociology. I couldn't go out and get a job with that. You know, my first real job outside of university was putting together a metal stage for a television show.
Cool.
That was, and I thought that was cool. And I had other experiences. I was a manager of a recycling shop for a while, and I had all these other jobs. And yes, I fell in love. I thought, I came very, very close many times to getting on that get married, have kids, buy a house thing. And for some reason, that never really worked out for me. And I consider myself fortunate for that, because so many other people got trapped in that. And then there's, of course, the economics of buying a house, of paying your student
Just
loan.
a second. Do you think these people who are, on this train, are they aware of Occupy? Are they aware of these problems we are talking about, or also the solutions and the root cause of the problems? Or are we still just a few thousand, or I don't know how many, 100,000 people maybe, who are aware? Or are all these families, these young families, are they aware of the problems?
Of course they're aware, but they're living the problem. It's not hundreds of thousands, it's millions of people. Millions of people. There's slightly more than 200 million people in the United States. And looking at the economics of things, there are millions of people that are unemployed. There are millions of people whose houses are being foreclosed upon. You know, millions of families, not even millions of people, millions of families that are living it. That it's not just an abstract concept. It's they don't know where they're going to live when the cops come to take their house away. You know, they don't know what they're going. They don't know what they're going to do for work, how they're going to get money, what's going to happen when the unemployment runs out. And that's why Occupy blew up the way it did. Because for the first time, we had people that were actually talking about these problems and addressing the root causes and weren't throwing jingoistic language at it. That's what I believe we've had for too long, for the Bush administration, the Tea Party. It's jingoistic lies that sound really good, but have nothing to do with the root causes of any of this. And I don't think Occupy has a solid political bent. Occupy is not solidly leftist. It's not solidly right-wing. It's not there. I don't believe Occupy has a political message. Occupy is about saying, stop, let's look at the machine, let's talk about it, let's involve everybody and educate ourselves and actually sit down and dialogue. That's what I believe. The street protests are not about achieving a set political aim. Yes, there are obvious fixes and there are obvious things that we could bring back and there are obvious problems that were created that we know about and that we're going to talk about. But the point of Occupy is about dialogue with everybody.
I think this is very necessary, even here in Austria, Vienna, or in Austria. People think we live in a democracy. We don't. So many people don't understand anything about how economics works, how money works, how life actually works. So and they're so uneducated on politics. So how can you call it a democratic system if the practitioners are not educated? So it's not democracy.
But I think it even goes beyond, I can't speak to Austria, but I think it even goes beyond that to a much more fundamental level. You know, there's democracy and there's representative democracy.
Yeah.
Even in Zuccotti Park, we had to figure out ways of letting everybody have a voice. That was hard. Yeah. Everybody that was focused and motivated on the same thing, just figuring out how to make every person be heard, even especially people that didn't want to be heard. You know, how do you try to touch the heart of somebody who who's terrified of speaking in front of people? They have thoughts, they have opinions, they probably have contributions that are mind-blowing and changing, but they'll never get a chance to do that unless they get over themselves, unless the crowd can show enough love in their heart for them.
Unless the environment is there.
Yeah, and that's the thing. We had to figure out, how do we do actual real democracy? How do we have a leaderless structure? Everybody's so accustomed to there being, you know, a leader who has the plan, who tells people what to do, and and everybody's so accustomed to that. I mean, we saw that in Zuccotti Park. And yes, there are people with certain capacities for planning and logistics, and who have an idea of how to get things done. And yes, there are, of course, natural people with skills whose skills need to be applied in the right way. But how do you prevent that person from taking their capacity and their skills and turning that into power? That's the real question, and that's a fundamental question. We're not even talking about society as a whole.
It only works like when all people are educated. Nobody has power. Only if you have a lot of people who are not educated, you can have power over them. So it's about education at the end.
I absolutely believe it's about education, but I think it's even more fundamental than that. It's about, I mean, and that's the education of the soul. That's the education of the heart.
About.
Yeah.
That's when I talk about education, I think of how we grow, the way we grow up, and the way we learn this planet works, kind of.
Exactly, and how everything we do in our daily lives is set by the structures and that's a lot of what I wanted to talk about with this exhibition. Yeah. Is just how do we? I'm taking it even further and further back, and saying things like, we don't know how to love. You know, we of course are against racism, of course we're against fascism, but I believe we're doing the same thing when we talk about the bankers and when we talk about the politicians and when we otherize them.
Yeah, finger pointing.
Yeah, finger pointing. That's very easy to do, and we can.
That's what we learned, actually.
Yeah, exactly, and yes, it is necessary to point out, to critique the mistakes of others and what they could be doing, but we have to have enough love in our hearts for everybody. And I think our generation, the internet generation, the Facebook generation, however you want to call it, has in a lot of ways lost the capacity not only to love other people, but to really love ourselves. We're too used to making products of ourselves, to otherizing ourselves, putting up OkCupid profiles and Facebook profiles and saying, oh, I put everything online and I'm so open about it, but you can't put your heart online.
So how did you, I mean, this is more personal, how did you figure out that for yourself? Like, did you figure out how to love yourself, or how did you do that?
I didn't, and it's a process. I don't think you can.
Like when did you give up your image and your profile?
I haven't.
You haven't?
No, and
what's holding you back?
Well, that's.
I mean, you seem pretty like you and not a product. I mean, you're wearing this.
Right.
thing.
Well, yeah, but
usually you have your suit on, and I don't know, but
yeah.
But you seem like just a human being to me, at least when I look into your eyes. It's not like we're having a show here or something.
Right.
So what is left that you have to let go?
I'm still exploring that. I think that I can't. I don't think you can I think that it's. I strongly believe in process. Mm-hmm. I don't think that. And then I think if I were to say, I'm an open person, I know myself, I love myself. No, that's creating another product. I have to be vulnerable enough in my heart to say, no, I don't have myself figured out, and that's fine.
Maybe that's the thing that they say, you have to live in the moment or something, you know. Yeah. I mean, I'm just thinking with you together because also I'm in the same process, and just, I mean, life has changed, and there will never be a time where you say, okay, now I'm this now. You're just constantly changing, so.
Yeah, and that exactly. Exactly. And I think you have to, yeah, it's not necessarily about living moment to moment to moment, but always living in the moment. You have what's happened, you have what you have to do right here and right now, and you have the future. And you can't predict the future. You can't say what will happen. I mean, just in the part of this whole project, I knew that I wanted to explore issues of love, and I knew I wanted to explore issues of confrontation, and I knew I wanted to explore dance and all of these different other things. And I knew that I wanted to intentionally, and that's the thing, I as a part of this process, did have to make a very conscious decision that I'm just going to cut myself open and for whatever reason just put my heart out there and just for everybody to see just raw emotions if it's too much, and just to be honest as things change and in the moment. And it's like,
how does that feel?
Huh? At times incredibly liberating and at times incredibly oppressing. Yes, I believe that it is a liberating feeling, but even liberation is scary. Even the nature of freedom. You know, we say we're a free society, you know, because perhaps we're free from want, or perhaps we're free from the threat of security. You know, we don't have from the threat of terrorists or people coming to mug us or getting shot, things like that, or we're free to speak our mind, or we're free, but that's not what freedom is. You know, yes, there's political freedom, there's human rights, there's human dignity, but freedom's not that easy. What freedom means is, I believe, a very individual thing, and it's something that you have to really think about and introspect about. You know, perhaps the person who knows that they're not going to be able to eat today, but is free to roam the earth and walk about and commune with nature, perhaps that person is more free than you and I. Who can say?
In a way, for sure.
Yeah.
When I take the U-Bahn and look into the faces of the people, I don't see free, happy people. Most of them are not. And this example was quite good. And I believe that we have, like you said, the resources, the technology, the brain, so to say, to have a world where everybody can get like 90 years old or whatever, and have a really good lifestyle, a good quality lifestyle, kind of lots of free time, and still be able to live in the moment, because he's not afraid that you cannot pay the rent or stupid things like that.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Yeah, and exactly, and that's the thing. There's just so much stuff. You can't pin anything down for this, and you know, this is a process of trying to find what is my freedom. You know, I was in a relationship, and this is personal, and this, people don't normally talk about this, but I think they should.
Me too.
And I was in a relationship for 2 years. I thought for sure we were, you know, she didn't want to get married, she didn't want to have kids, but I thought for sure we were going to spend the rest of our lives together. I didn't question this. Perhaps I should have, and in retrospect, thinking about it, I should have. She left me a week before I left for a business trip abroad, far away. I go abroad a lot. Yeah. And she knew that I was just going to go there and then go from Japan to here to do my work here in December, and I was devastated. In a way, that was a very, very good thing. I'm very grateful for that now, because that was so emotionally devastating that it made me stop and look and examine everything. And at the same time, a lot of it was, you know, Occupy was involved in that. You know, the story that I tell is that, you know, I wasn't part of the September 15th demonstrations. Did nothing there, but Zuccotti Park is right on my walk to work. From where I was living with my girlfriend in New Jersey, to take the PATH train to World Trade Center, and then walk straight across Zuccotti Park and then down to my building, which is not even 100 meters from the New York Stock Exchange. Mm-hmm. And I just was walking across Zuccotti Park one day, and I noticed people. Obviously they're protesting, obviously they're doing some kind of action, obviously wanted to occupy Zuccotti Park, and they wanted to occupy Wall Street, but that didn't happen. That was just the next place that they went. And I saw people that believed in what they believed in, but were suffering, who were sleeping in the park but didn't know how to do that, there were lots of people who had really great ideas and a passion and a strength, but were suffering and didn't know how to go about it. And that's when I got involved. And I got involved with a comfort working group, and that the specifics are not important. But I'd get a list of things that people needed, go out and buy them, bring them back, try to hit the General Assembly meeting during lunch, see people on my way to work, see people on my way back, and just try to help, just to do all of that. And I remember, I spent lots and lots of money on that. This is during the media blackout phase, before celebrities were before people, and that's fine. And if I go to Zuccotti Park today and nobody recognizes who I am, that's fine too. That doesn't matter. The people change, and they're incredibly
You changed. It sounds like you changed. I mean,
and they're incredibly hardworking people there who it's very easy to burn out when you're in the street even if you believe to the heart and soul of what you're doing, just the physicality of it is very difficult. And it was one of those things where I was with my girlfriend. She didn't agree with what I was doing, and that's fine. She thought, maybe didn't understand it. Maybe, and that's the thing. I have a very easy time explaining all of these things to people on camera or for interviews and things like that, but it's hard for me to explain it to people that I love and convince people of that. That's no matter all of the various different activist causes that I've done, it's always been difficult to explain to those that I love, to my parents, to girlfriends, things like that. And then at one point she said, well, I want to go do this thing. And I balked at the ticket price. I was like, why are the tickets so expensive for blah, blah, blah? Not realizing that she was looking at me, that I'd spent much, much, much more on that on perfect strangers. People that I saw maybe once and will never see again. And all of that equipment right now is in a landfill in Staten Island right now. Everything that I bought when they raided Zuccotti Park. And she couldn't handle that. And I wasn't aware of that or looking into my heart to see that. And everybody makes that mistake, I think, today. We start off knowing each other based on Facebook profiles and what we have online and what, even in our interactions with people, we structure our own thoughts and our own thinking by the internet. How am I going to blog about this? How am I going to put this on Facebook? What pictures do I take? What things do I want to present? We don't speak heart to heart anymore, I don't think. And I wanted to try to open that up and try to learn that from my parents, learn that from people who are 80 years old, who never became a part of the internet generation. How did they meet people? How did they love? That's what this project was all about, to try to encompass all of that into a much broader dialogue about love and how it applies to the Occupy movement and to our lives just as a whole. And, I came here, cut myself open, laid my heart out, and I was perfectly open and honest. I knew that I wanted to go on first dates. That was a part of this project. And so I got on OkCupid and did the whole thing, and I said, I want to go on first dates as performance art to try to explore love. I'm an artist in residence at the Courtier 21, Museums Courtier, for the month of December. Will you go on a first date with me? And sent it to everybody who I thought I had a high OkCupid match percentage with. And, well, Claudia responded. Turns out that we have a mutual friend, artist Michel Zeltner, who's big in Graffiti Research Lab. I've known him for many years, very close friend of mine. I was talking with him in one chat window just about my plans for Vienna and working on different things. And I said, how does dating work there, blah, blah, blah. And then he texted me back to saying, you just messaged a friend of mine on OkCupid. And she's very shy normally and very reserved, but incredibly brilliant, incredibly intelligent. And we started talking. We started sending emails that got longer and longer and longer. And I was working out all of these issues with her, and she was coming back with really good responses in her own personal experiences. And we had both just gone through romantic breakups and had both cut ourselves open and shared ourselves with each other. And she became a wonderful collaborator for this project. Most of the pictures that you see here were taken by her friend. Yeah. And long story short, I fell madly in love. This was not supposed to happen, but it did.
Yeah. Nobody knows what's supposed to happen.
That's the thing. I had such a clear idea of what I wanted to say and how I wanted to prove it. I approached it like a scientist. Yeah. And something else entirely happened. But she lives here. I live in New York. I have to go back to and I said, a lot of my friends are moving to Berlin right now from the United States. They're saying everything here is
just a tiny little bit better.
Yeah.
It's not so much better. it's well.
And that's the thing. And I didn't. And I was getting ready to move to Berlin myself, but it wasn't until I was sitting in a hostel in Japan, watching my computer, watching Twitter, watching Facebook, and saying, they're raiding Zuccotti Park, they're raiding it. And of course, there have been many different warnings, but then actually seeing it, actually hearing and just going through it and just sitting there paralyzed. You know, all I could do is just soak up more information, but there was nothing that I could do. Watching, like seeing pictures of them hauling tables that I had bought for the Welcome Center into a garbage truck. Yeah, I'm sorry. It's
I'm sorry. That's...
Yeah, no, but and then that's it. It was at that moment that I knew I can't leave. That's not what America is about. America's about staying and fighting for what you believe in, at great personal sacrifice, if any, and fighting for what is right, because yeah, a lot of things that are not right are happening in my country right now, and I can't leave it. I have to stay and fight. I have to stay and do what I can to make it so that I can come back to Europe someday and have people say, yes, I would like to visit your country again. That's my goal. And I think that when I can get to the point where my country is actually about freedom and is about respecting human dignity and is about respecting human rights, again, will probably never achieve it in my lifetime.
Yeah, don't say that. Don't say that. It's just around the corner, believe me. So and it's you keep on saying my country. I was born like in Vienna. My parents are from former Yugoslavia. I grew up with 3 different languages and 2 different cultures, and I don't feel that I belong to any of this culture. And I traveled a little South America and just, you know, like I had the possibility to travel. So, and I figured out culture is something that's not helping us to make friends with other people. It's most of the times it's like blocking us in a way. And well, I cannot explain that so easily. But
we talked a lot about that, and that.
No, the point is, this is not an American problem.
Right.
This is worldwide, and it's. I mean, I don't think it matters. You can move to Berlin because it's also first world, so to say, and you can do a lot of work there because we are the people with the money. We are the people who buy all this crap, and we are the people who have democracy and let politics and banks do all these things. So we can do the change here. I think it's much harder to do the change in, I don't know, somewhere in Peru or somewhere in Africa where you don't have internet, you don't have any infrastructure.
No, but look at where Occupy came from. Occupy is directly informed by the Arab Spring, by Tunisia, by Egypt.
Well, but look at the pressure they had there.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they suffered a great deal. We don't want to go there, like in Europe or even in the States. Or even if I look to the United States, I thought for myself, how can people? I mean, why are there not all these millions of people that you were talking that left that had to leave the houses and so on? They should be all on the streets. You know, there should be so much more people on the streets. And I think, how much pressure do they still need, or what's necessary to get people really, like, not, you know, really like 200 million people or at least 150 million people on the streets? Because, I mean, it's, why not? They're taking everything from us, and we're having a miserable life, and it's so hard to have a good time and have time for your family, for the things that they are fun. And it's possible. It would be so easily possible to have a great life for everybody. No starvation, no war, no. I mean, we are, you know.
Yeah, I agree.
You see,
but that's all you can say about that, you know.
Yes, this is not the best interview, maybe, but
no. This is great. This is dialogue.
That's what's necessary.
I mean, if this is nothing more than just you and I connecting and talking about this, that makes it worth it for both of us, and that makes it worth it for the world.
Yeah. Do you have a question, maybe? Because I keep on holding this.
Oh yeah, no problem.
The questions, and you can do the same. So.
Yeah, sure. Why not? Okay. Yeah. Let's just mix it up a little bit. Okay. So And perhaps I'm coming at it from, I mean, I grew up much the same way that you did. My parents are from Chile. I grew up with Spanish being spoken in the household. And yeah, I felt there was a little bit of difference, between the culture that was in my house and what was in the outside. My parents are very conscious, saying, "Look, you're an American.
Yep.
You were born here. You are part of this country," and that's all America is. All America is an amalgam of all the people who ended up there. So we don't have a lot of the historical, cultural baggage of Europe. But why do you believe? And when I say my country, I say that meaning America, which is perhaps more an ideal, and America has the luxury to be an ideal of, if you come here or if you come to the United States and you work, and you have the chance to succeed, make a life for yourself, and all of that is falling apart now. But I guess my question to you is, how do you believe in Europe, being born here, being a part of two different cultures? I mean, how does that impact your psyche? How do you think that that's different from somebody who, maybe has had family for 12 generations living in the same village in Lower Austria, coming here to Vienna to go to university and going back home and feeling that Austrian thing? How do you think that you're different from that person?
I just think that I never identified so strongly with any of the cultures, so I never, it's the experience you actually make in the school, because my German was not perfect when I went to school here, because I didn't learn it at home that much, and also I spent like 3 years in the school with my grandparents in former Yugoslavia. So I went to the kindergarten here, then I went for 3 years to Yugoslavia, and then came back to Vienna. So I spoke there creepy Yugoslavian or whatever, and I spoke here a creepy German. So I was the foreigner over there, and I was the foreigner over here, and you feel it. Children show you that you are different and you don't belong here, and I didn't belong there, and then I didn't belong here in a way. That's one kind of experience that helped me not to feel like I'm a proud something. I just made friends with people who were nice to me, and didn't make friends with assholes kind of thing. And I think this helped me a lot, to just see the person and not see too much of the baggage.
Why do you think children do that? Why do you think children are so easy to otherize when perhaps... Well, yeah, why do you think children are so easy to otherize? Why is that a classic facet of childhood everywhere?
Well, it's the environment that determines how you think and how you feel and what your habits are and what your thought process is and how big your perspective is. So it's the environment. If I would have if I were born in I don't know, in Africa, I would talk a different language and have a different attitude and be a different person. So people who are born in the Western countries, or maybe people who are born in Austria or in Vienna, have a specific way to think and to act, because all the environment is doing this. I mean, just look into the news, look in the Kronenzeitung, look in the way politics are made. Look how the school system works. It's not a surprise. It's just a copy of that what was before. So,
do you think it's possible to be a proud American or a proud Austrian or a proud whatever, but at the same time view yourself as a citizen of the world and still have a fundamental respect for all of the other cultures and an appreciation for all of the other beautiful cultures on the planet?
I think everything is possible, but I don't know if it makes a lot of sense. I think I feel like an earthling, and I think this is a really happy being, an earthling, because there's everything that we need is here, and there are lots of nice and warm, loving people. And I don't know, maybe now in this year and maybe for the next decade or two, or I don't know, it might be necessary to feel like I'm a proud American or whatever. But I think at the end, maybe in future, it's not relevant. You know, it's not something scientific. It's just a map or some idea that somebody said, okay, this is America and this is Europe and so on. It's just a separation thing. I mean, I don't say that it's wrong to have culture and to have the knowledge of the culture, to take it with you, but we have to, you know, constantly transform it. You know, look into it. Is it still helpful to do the things like we do, or shouldn't we change to the new ways, to the new possibilities? Like when I look into Vienna, or sorry for my bad English, but
no, your English is great. I think it's better than a lot of Americans I know, actually.
Oh, really? Well,
because we don't care about language in the United States.
Okay, I like that. So when I look around Vienna, we are talking about nobody wants to have nuclear power like here. Nobody wants to use it. At least that's why people like to protest against it, and they didn't like Fukushima and Chernobyl and all these things. But we still don't have solar panels on the roofs. We don't have. When you look at the roofs, there is no wind turbine. Nothing is up there. And the plan from the politics, I think in 2020 maybe they want some percentage of the houses to have some alternative energy. And I'm like, hey, the technology is already there and it's already old and it's available. It's not so expensive, and so I don't know what the question was. Forgot the question.
Oh, I think I forgot the question too. Oh, about nationalism. About, do you think it's possible to be a proud Austrian or American, but at the same time view yourself as a citizen of the world? That was the original question. I think you actually answered that, and
there was another one.
Was it? Did I skip one?
Yeah. Whatever. I think we have to, like you say, we have to start talking again together, and like do a global brainstorming thing, and just figure out, hey, what's the technology, what's the know-how we are having to make a better economic system that actually works like an economy. I mean, to economize has to, it's like to have a household, to take care of the things that are here and take care of everybody, so to say, so that everybody has what he needs. And that's not what our economic system does. It does quite a lot of the opposite most of the times. And like it only works if it's inefficient. Like it would be a huge problem to have all the roofs with solar and wind energy and have alternative energy in use, because you would lose jobs in the oil industry. You would lose jobs in so many different areas. So it's not sustainable for the monetary economic system to be sustainable. It has to be wasteful and creating a lots of problems, so that you need a lot of service, for example, for your car or whatever, so that it can go on generating money. Because if you solve the problems, if you actually would, just go and solve the problems, because we know how to solve the problems, there would be no need for going to work for so much hours, and there would be no need for so many things. So the economic system wouldn't work.
No, there's so many different questions that I want to that spring out from that. But do you believe that? I mean, right now, so much of our economic system is based on growth and continual growth and the future, but everything is so short-sighted. And I think a lot of what you're talking about right now is the short-sighted, non-sustainable is just the mindset that we're locked into. My personal belief, and you can. And I guess my question would be a response to this. My personal belief is that we can already see the end of that. We can already see the end of oil and the increasing, and not only environmental costs, but actual value costs in extracting oil. And the things that were not viable before are now suddenly viable because of the price of oil. And yes, we are developing alternatives, but we're not developing them fast enough. I personally believe that we're going to have a much greater economic collapse, that the collapse will come before we adapt a sustainable system, and that collapse is what's going to lead to a sustainable system. It's going to be many, many smaller producers building up a new economy that's much more level than what we have now. And I believe we have the technology for a much more flat economy where there aren't so many centers of power. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, to a point, I agree, because I think we have, like you said, we have the knowledge and the resources to transform this planet into a really cool playland, so to say. But what's missing is this communication. Like we are understanding, okay, there are other possibilities, but I'm afraid too many people are not having this insight and are not, there is this. It should be like this. It should be ORF should be here and talking to you all the time and asking me questions, and I don't know. And people like us and Occupy people, and there are many groups who are working into this direction, should be 24/7 on TV, and like it should be a huge discussion in the newspapers.
But I'm going to interrupt you. Do you think that people are ready to handle that? Because my thought is, people are still trapped in the machine. They're trapped in the, I want to listen to blah, 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 Parliament, blah, 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 the Prime Minister, blah, 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 Japan, blah, 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 the United States. Here, have some happy music. Okay, here, have your nice sitcom. Okay, here, watch some silly cat videos on YouTube. To go from that to economic collapse to blah, blah, blah.
No, don't call it economic collapse. Like, call it system upgrade or something.
But these are very heavy issues. How do you coax people into the dialogue?
Because it's fun. It's fun to have a better life. It's fun to have a lot of vacation. It's fun to have a lot of free time. It's fun to have a healthy, clean air, clean water, good organic food for everybody. No starving people. It's fun to have no wars. It's fun to be to have the possibility just to travel around and give free hugs to everybody if you want. Or I don't know. It's even fun to say, okay, we damaged the earth to such an extent. Now I just spend my free time, or a part of my free time, to clean up the mess, because this is fun. It's fun to be creative. It's fun to be alive. It's fun to be a person and not Nike and I don't know, all this image thing that we build up. It's fun to be open and to feel love and to give love. It's the best fun you can have on this planet, actually.
So why aren't we all doing it? How do you convince others? Well, I think we are not doing it because we, as we talked before, we grow up with these things, with a specific mindset. We grow up and think you have to work a lot and to work hard to achieve something in life, and you have to pay for everything that you get, and you have to there is competition everywhere. We are growing up with competition. As you grow up, you learn how to be more clever than somebody else, and you don't get that you're actually taking away from a whole, instead of understanding that you are part of the whole thing, and whatever you can give to the whole, it comes back to you in many different ways. So this is the shift. So far we thought, okay, I have to look up for myself, or maybe for my little family, and see how much can I get and grab for myself, own, whatever that means. And the new thing will be, hey, okay, I'm an earthling. I'm part of an organism called Earth. There are animals. There is this nature thing. There are so many other humans. And what I'm doing here? I mean, am I here to fight the others and to try to be the number one of whatever? I don't know. Or am I here to try to have a future for myself, for my children, for all the others, for this organism? Actually, it's like a human body. It's like we are behaving like cancer in a way, but we should behave like like a body. Just work together and see how distribute heat and energy throughout the body, and work together to repair things and make things healthy again. It's very simple, actually. And sorry, I think it's even not so hard to get, and I think it's just something, a little click in our brain, and I think the dancing thing is a good thing to make this click happen, because
just a little story. There's this song from Bob Marley, "No Woman, No Cry," and most of the years that I heard, whenever I heard this song, I thought, I mean, bad English, and I don't know. It's like no woman, no cry. I'm without a woman, and I have no stress, kind of thing. And just some years ago, it dawned like. I was like, hey, this was maybe one of the most loving persons, and he loved everybody and has so many love songs. And then he writes a song like that where he's kind of a macho and says, no woman, no problem, kind of. And I was, this must be wrong. And then I got it. He was like, talking to a woman, say, hey, you don't cry. Everything is okay. And it was just not even a second. But then, you get it, and you do things differently. And I think this is possible. And through the internet, we are getting there, and also through dancing and stuff.
I was I was just going to mention that just when I'm dancing, that really. I mean, just getting out. Getting out and being with people. Yeah. Well, no. The thing that I notice is it's not a challenge for me. I love it. I love it. I will go out there and I will dance on an empty platform, and that's just to reconnect with my body. I never dance in the club. I never do any of that. I don't even know how this happened. Mm-hmm. It was a talk I gave at a conference a long time ago about dance. It was a throwaway thing. And then I thought, well, why don't I experiment with it? And so I did. And and it became a wonderful thing. But getting back to your point, it's amazing how many people I pass by. And there are people, and there's really three kinds of people. There's the younger generation that are like, oh wow, this dude's dancing, this is great. All I got to do is I just got to put on Barbra Streisand and just wait for the thump, and then just dance them, do a little vamp, just go Barbra Streisand and take off. And even though I have noise canceling headphones, and as soon as I say Barbra Streisand, I'm out the other way. They're just like, yeah. They just because we connected. They know that song and they know I'm dancing that song. They can feel it. No. It's just me and my headphones. Okay. And I have to figure out. I have to plot my dance schedule for tonight, where I'm going to go or what I'm going to do, and post that online just so that people. And we'll talk about this later. You can just sort of catch me live in action in the street. But it's interesting. There are people that are easy to connect with. Not a problem at all. People throw out their hands for a high five, and then bam, it's good. Then there are the other people that are sort of, reading your newspaper, and then they look up. You just get them out of their just shell a little bit, and they're like, and then you kind of do some special moves for them, try to get them in a little bit, and then they know they were spotted. They know you're looking at them, and then they're like, okay, nice. They'll give a little smile. They'll maybe give a little wave. When I go to the next car, they'll still turn, they'll look around. And then they're the people that are just trapped. That just, that they know you're there. They can feel your presence. And they're just like, what is this guy doing? How do I get away from him? He's crazy. I don't know about, the fear of a stranger. That's the problem with this, a huge problem with the society. Fear of strangers. Fear of the unknown. That's first group, easy. Second group, wonderful. I love that. That's what touches my heart when I know that I can just break a shell. But it's that third group, and the vast majority of the people are in that third group. And that's how do we get to them? That's what I think the great challenge of the Occupy movement is. How do you get to the people that are just so trapped in themselves, so trapped in the machine, so trapped in their daily lives that they can't even see an escape from it when it's right there in front of them?
They have a friend that is one of the type 2 persons. Mm-hmm. And this type 2 person will one day join you dance. That's how you get them.
That's what I hope. I really hope. I mean, this has happened so many times in Vienna, but what I really wanted was to be riding the U-Bahn one day and see some crazy dude in a suit, in headphones, maybe a white lab coat. I so wanted that. I so wanted to see that.
I promise it will come.
Okay, I really do it. Just go out there and dance. That's what you can do if you have just educate yourself and go out there and dance and try to touch the hearts of people.
Yep. Cool.
I think that's a good ending point.
That's a good ending point. Thank you.
Here, give me a hug. Give me a hug.
Yeah.
Free hugs. Oh. Thank you so much.
Thank you, man. It's a good talk.
Awesome, definitely.